Time now for an earnings alert. Jenny Horne joins us again. We're taking a look at Bumble. Shares are under pressure after its latest quarterly report. Take us through some of the details and some of your takeaways from its quarterly numbers, Jenny.
So, okay, there were still some things to like. I know that shares are down about 14% pre-market, so it wouldn't tell you that based on performance and share price today. But for what we saw for the fourth quarter was a bit of a mixed picture. So I think that the concern was revenue decreased. I mean, about 4.5% year over year. That's a concern. Average revenue per user also declined to around $20.58 from $22.64 year over year, which just goes to show that right now we are seeing this consistent trend of pricing pressure and monetization challenges, despite the fact that they did actually see 5.3% growth in their total paying users to around 4.2 million. So their full year 2024 operating loss totaled around $700 million. That included an $892 million impairment charge, and their paying users dropped by about 57,000 quarter over quarter in the fourth quarter. But to focus on what was good, because there were still definitely positives. Their adjusted EBITDA margin improved about 27.7% from 26.9%. Their full year revenue rose around 2% to, now $1.07 billion, and share repurchase programs ongoing right now with around 64.7 million remaining as of the end of January. So I think that there's, again, different cases to be made for this report, but there's definitely at least some optimism. But outside of that, some of the upside I mentioned, the decision to discontinue their Fruits and Official apps, while also right now trying to streamline their operations, signals right now this is not a company operating from a point of strength. We're seeing more and more of a retreat and more of a really retroactive Bumble. And it's been a difficult environment for all these online dating companies. But I will say that when you have contracting revenue 4.5%, I know that that's not necessarily so far off of what consensus was implying, but it still doesn't necessarily paint a picture of any sort of improvement in a market right now that seems like it's quick to forgive, or at least be relatively gentler to some of these names that are able to put up growth for the first time in several quarters. That's not the case this morning. A name that's down about 40% on a 12-month basis and about 40% from 52-week highs here.
Yes, and then today alone in the pre-market, it's down 19%. You add a potential another 20% potentially, drawdown here. It's a difficult place for it, especially when you think about what consumers are faced with, in terms of inflation pressures. Why would they pay for a service when they can find other options for free?
Exactly.
Even, when you bring in, like, Meta has a dating, I haven't used it, but it has a dating, option on its platform as well. So, the need is not there. And then if you're looking for exposure to this space, Match is doing better this year to date, not if we look at it on a year over year basis, compared to, on a year over year basis, it is doing better than Bumble, but it's still not great on a year over year. But year to date, it's doing better. So if you want exposure there, why go to Bumble?
I totally agree with you, and I frankly think at this point in the online world, everything online is a dating service if you want it to be. Just frankly, I don't think it's specialized to these apps anymore, and they're losing that edge. And Bumble, frankly, never had the same edge that Match did because they're so enormous as far as its brands. But yeah, I think that I was reading about some of the Gen Z online dating trends. They're not favorable for these apps, so I don't necessarily see a turnaround substantially, because the next generation of daters doesn't seem to want to pay substantially to be online in these dating services. So it's an interesting environment. One, I'm actually glad I'm not necessarily fully versed in, but I do know that anything is an online dating app if you want it to be.
Everything if you want it to be. All right, Jenny Horne, thanks for that deep dive into Bumble's latest quarterly numbers under some heavy pressure in the pre-market.